Welcome back to our Ping Styles channel. Today, we are not just looking at a scoreboard or a set of highlights. We are peeling back the layers of a match that, on the surface, seemed like a routine second-round encounter at the 2011 World Championships in Rotterdam. But underneath that blue table, between the squeak of rubber soles and the rhythmic ping-pong of the celluloid ball, lay two of the most fascinating, heart-wrenching, and triumphant stories in the history of modern table tennis. On one side, we have the poster boy of Japanese resurgence, Jun Mizutani. On the other, the lone gaucho from the East, Liu Song. This is a story of a boy who was forced to grow up too fast in a foreign land, and a man who traveled across oceans just to find a place where he could finally belong. Let's start with the man who would eventually become a household name in Japan, the man they call the samurai of the table, Jun Mizutani. To understand Jun in 2011, you have to go back to his childhood in Iwata, Shizuoka. Jun wasn't just a kid who liked sports. He was born into a table tennis dynasty. Both his parents were players, and his father was his first coach. But being a prodigy in Japan back then was a heavy burden. For decades, Japanese table tennis had lived in the massive, suffocating shadow of China. The Japanese Federation realized that if they kept training their kids at home, they would never break the Chinese wall. So, they made a radical, almost cruel decision. They decided to send their brightest stars away. Imagine being Jun Mizutani. You're only 14 years old. You're just starting to figure out who you are, and suddenly you're put on a plane to Düsseldorf, Germany. You don't speak German. You don't speak English. You're living in a tiny, cold room in a sports academy. While other kids were hanging out at arcades or going on first dates, Jun was sitting in a German dormitory, staring at the ceiling, eating food he didn't recognize, and crying himself to sleep because he missed his mother's cooking. He has often spoken about those nights of intense loneliness. He felt like an exile, a soldier sent to a front line he didn't choose. But it was in that loneliness that Jun Mizutani found his soul as a player. He trained with the European giants. He learned the big loop game. He learned how to defend against the most powerful hitters in the world. This is where he developed that famous, almost supernatural court sense. Jun doesn't just see the ball. He feels the air pressure of the stroke. He became a master of the lob, the desperate, high-arching defensive shot that most players use as a last resort. For Jun, it became a weapon of psychological warfare. He would retreat 5-6 meters from the table, look his opponent in the eye, and say, "Go ahead. Smash it. He'll be here all day." By the time he arrived in Rotterdam in 2011, Jun was 21. He was the reigning Japanese national champion. He was supposed to be the chosen one, but he carried a secret frustration. For years, he had been campaigning against the use of illegal boosters and glues in the sport, feeling that his clean, technical game was being cheated by those using chemical advantages. He was a man of principle, a purist in a world of high-speed power. He was playing for the honor of the sport as much as for the medal. Now, let's pivot to the other side of the net. If Jun Mizutani's story is a Shakespearean drama, Liu Song's story is an epic odyssey. Born in 1972 in Guangxi, China, Liu Song was a product of the most brutal sports factory on earth, the Chinese national system. He was talented, yes, he was fast. He had a lethal forehand. But in China, talented is the baseline. There are thousands of Liu Songs in China. By his early 20s, Liu realized the truth, the glass ceiling. He was good enough to be a practice partner for the stars, but he would never be the star. He would never wear the red jersey at the Olympics. He was a ghost in the system. Most people would have taken a coaching job and settled into a quiet life. Not Liu Song. In 1995, at the age of 23, he made a choice that baffled his peers. He accepted an invitation to move to Argentina. Think about the cultural shock. He went from the structured, disciplined gyms of China to a country where table tennis was a hobby, a basement sport. He arrived in Buenos Aires with a suitcase and a racket, knowing absolutely zero Spanish. He was a stranger in a land of tango and football. For years, Liu Song was a one-man army. He didn't have a national team to train with. He didn't have a world-class coach whispering tactics in his ear. He had to be his own coach, his own manager, and his own physiotherapist. He often had to pay his own way to tournaments. But something beautiful happened. Argentina embraced him, and he embraced Argentina. He traded green tea for mate. He learned to love the passion of the South American fans. He wasn't just that Chinese guy anymore. He was Song, the Argentine hero. Technically, Liu Song is a living relic, and I say that with the utmost respect. He plays with the Japanese penhold grip. Unlike the modern reverse backhand penhold you see today, Liu uses only one side of the blade. This is a style built on extreme athleticism. You have no backhand wing. If the ball goes to your left, you have to move your entire body to hit a forehand. At age 39, in this 2011 match, Liu Song was moving like a teenager. His footwork was a testament to decades of discipline. His serve was his masterpiece, a series of deceptive, short motions that made the ball dance like a puppet on a string. So, here they are in Rotterdam, the young samurai versus the old gaucho. The contrast in their styles was a feast for technical nerds. Jun Mizutani, the wall, playing a smooth, all-around game, looking to control the rhythm. Liu Song, the assassin, knowing he didn't have the lungs for long rallies, looking to kill the point in 3 shots or less. The match was a psychological chess game. Every time Jun tried to slow the game down, Liu would explode with a forehand drive that echoed through the arena. What makes this match emotional isn't just the points. It's the realization of what was at stake. For Jun, a loss to a 39-year-old would have been a catastrophic blow to his status as the future of Japan. The pressure was suffocating. For Liu Song, this was one of his last stands on the world stage. He was playing for every immigrant who ever felt out of place, proving that age is just a number if the fire in your heart still burns. When you look at the footage of that first set, that marathon 2018, you see the exhaustion in their eyes. You see Jun Mizutani's disbelief that this old man wouldn't go away. You see Liu Song's defiance, his refusal to be a footnote in Jun's story. In that set, they weren't just playing for a spot in the 3rd round. They were justifying every sacrifice they had ever made. Jun was justifying the lonely nights in Dusseldorf. Liu was justifying the 10,000-mile journey from Guangxi to Buenos Aires. Jun Mizutani eventually won that match 4-2, but the respect he showed Liu Song at the net was genuine. He knew he had been pushed to the brink by a legend. Years later, Jun would reach the pinnacle, winning the first ever mixed doubles gold for Japan in Tokyo, finally breaking the Chinese dominance he had been fighting since he was 14. Liu Song would go on to win the Pan American gold later in 2011, a moment that moved an entire continent to tears. Their careers are reminders that table tennis is a sport of lonely winners. Whether you are sent away by your country or you leave it by choice, the journey to the top is always a solitary one. Jun and Liu are 2 sides of the same coin, warriors who found their identity through the struggle of being an outsider. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the hearts of 2 legends here on Ping Styles. Table tennis is more than just spin and speed. It's about the miles traveled and the tears shed before the first serve is even made. If this story touched you, make sure to hit that like button and share it with someone who thinks ping pong is just a game. We'll be back next time with another story from the archives. Until then, keep your feet moving, your eyes on the ball, and never, ever give up on the lob. See you again.